week on the Analog Circle podcast. Xbox is releasing their next generation console in 2026, allegedly. The original God of War trilogy is allegedly being remastered. I don't know about that one. Could Toys for Bob be working on Spyro the Dragon 4? Well, we get some very small news that suggests that that's what they're doing. And it looks like Sony will be shutting the doors of another development studio. All of these stories can be found here and more in episode 191 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I want to say welcome to the last show of 2023. Oh my goodness. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have been able to come back this year. And guys, I just want to say thank y'all again for rocking out with me. Now, if you guys are interested, and trust me, I have been getting your emails and I truly appreciate it. But if you do want to be a part of the next listener feedback episode, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-380-0281 to be a part of that, or you can email the show, and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Be sure to let your voice be heard. Now, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and let's get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news that went down. Now, we know that allegedly one of the biggest secrets, but not a secret in the industry, is the PS5 Pro. It's allegedly supposed to release in 2024, and we know Xbox already said, according to Phil Spencer, the Series X is their mid-gen console. It's still confusing to me to this day. But what if I told you Xbox is taking this approach a step further and are going to start their next gen offering in 2026? Now, I say this because industry insider Idle Sloth tweeted this, and I quote, "Rumor, Xbox Next might be releasing in 2026. No clue whether it's an Xbox Series Pro or the next generation of Xbox." Jeff said he can mostly confirm this, but there are some details that might not be fully locked in. Jeff also added that the leaker said that the leaked all-digital Xbox Series X was canceled so that they could get the next Xbox out faster. End of quote. Now, this is the thing. I mean, I'm thinking of it from this perspective. We know that during that Xbox, that original Xbox generation, going into the Xbox 360 generation, they actually jumped the gun kind of fast. They caught Sony slipping a little bit. They had a year head start when it came to that generation, and they were the cheaper of the two. Much cheaper, I might add. They also had their ducks in a row with their online service, where PlayStation at that time, they were struggling to get any traction off of the ground with their service. And at that time, it was free, so you kind of got what you got. I mean, it's a free service. They're not going to put that much money into it. But we know that that changed eventually during the later half of the PlayStation 3's life cycle, when they started adding games onto the service and things of that nature. Then it made Xbox raise their game up to give games away. But then by the PlayStation 4, by that time, they were all in on actually charging for their online service. So I say all of this to say that if this is the same strategy that Xbox is going with and they think that it's going to have that same effect, I would say they would be highly mistaken. It is no way that they will ever come off of a generation like they did with the 360 by starting early, because now, today, in this climate, everything gets picked apart. If the PlayStation 6 comes out and it's even slightly more powerful, has some of their games, or third-party games, I should say, running at a higher frame rate, a higher resolution, faster load times, it could only be marginal. But if it's a marginal difference, that's all that needs to be said and shown to the masses to say, well, I'm not getting this next Xbox. It's not as powerful as the PlayStation 6. No way. So they're going to find themselves in the same position that they're in today. And they even have the more powerful console this generation, which is madness. It's absolute madness that they have the more powerful console and are still being beaten up in these different comparisons. With Digital Foundry, these different comparison videos, they are falling short in certain categories, not all categories, but in certain categories, they're getting beat up. Certain categories, they're winning at times. But I do not think that this is a great strategy for Xbox to do. 2026, tomorrow is 2024, because we're recording this on the last day of the year, the 31st of December. So tomorrow is 2024. You're talking about 2 years. You're going to bring out a new next gen hardware? No way. Especially if they're going to have, if the rumors are true, we still don't know 100% for sure. But if PlayStation is going to be bringing out their Pro next year, well, I should say, tomorrow, not literally tomorrow, but in 2024, then I just don't think they need to rush to the market. We still don't know what the Series X is capable of. So I would recommend to Microsoft, hold off. Just wait. Ride this generation out. Don't do the mid-gen upgrade if you don't want to. You got 12 teraflops in the Xbox Series X. Just show it. Show what it can do and ride this generation out and use this generation as a stepping stool to get back into the good graces with gamers. That's what you should do. Make sure you got AAA games coming out, that they look great, they play great, have great stories, are just overall great gaming experiences. Concentrate on that. You got the hardware. The hardware is exactly what you need it to be. Just take advantage of it. Do not release this console in 2026, because you will be right back where you are today, and probably an even worse state than you are right now. I don't know. No, I do know that. I'm standing on that. That's what I say. I would love to get you guys' opinion on this. But as for the sake of time, we're going to move on into the next story. Now, this next story, I actually got it from IGN. So, well, it looks like, oh man, that hack. Now, some of this news that we're going to go over, it is older news. Some of it might be a little more current. So I do want to put that caveat out there. And it's going to be more of a heavier Sony or PlayStation based show this week. So if you're not the biggest PlayStation fan, you might want to tune out. But we got a couple of stories from across the board, but it's more so PlayStation focused this week. Just wanted to put that caveat out there. So it looks like that hack that happened to Insomniac. Now, I said last week, but it was more so about close to 2 weeks now, has come with major consequences, because since Sony didn't pay, and I congratulate them for not paying the $2 million. I know some people are like, wow, they could have paid that, but you shouldn't. And I repeat, you should not give in to demands of terrorists. Hopefully, the one thing I will say though, I hope that the information of those Insomniac employees, hopefully it didn't get leaked into the wrong hands. Or I can only imagine that Sony, well, I don't know, man. Sony seems to be having some financial issues over there. I don't know. Maybe was the $2 million too much for them to pay? I don't think they down that bad. I wouldn't put that on them. But maybe Sony just felt like this is not enough to hurt us, or I don't know what their thinking was. But let's get back to the story. So since they didn't pay that $2 million for the ransom, I believe that the company's name, or I should say the terrorist group that actually did this, or cyber terrorist group that did this, is Rhysida. I guess it's spelled RHYSIDA. They released 1.67 terabytes, God dog, of data, which contains more than 1.3 million files. And because of this, Insomniac's roadmap has been leaked for the next decade or so. So I will say this. If you don't want spoilers, now granted, this has been 2 weeks ago, so I'm sure you guys probably have heard it. But again, if you don't want spoilers about what's coming or potentially coming, because things can change, fast forward this part, I would say about 10, maybe 12 minutes or so, because here we go. Now, this is the upcoming list of games that they have in the works, Insomniac, that is. They have Marvel's Venom is being planned to release in 2025. So roughly about 2 years from now, a year and a half. You got Marvel's Wolverine that's actually coming out in 2026, which is very interesting because we had been hearing reports and rumors that the Wolverine game was going to be releasing late next year, in 2024. So as of right now, and of course things have changed, things aren't always the same. We don't know how old these documents are that got leaked, but in those leaked documents, again, it is saying that Wolverine will be targeting or releasing in 2026. Up next, you got Marvel Spider-Man 3 in 2028, which I do want to put this out here. I do have Spider-Man 2 in my clutches as it stands right now. So I will be giving you guys some impressions about that coming up in the near future. But here we go. Spider-Man 3 again in 2028, which is roughly about 4 years from now. That seems to be about on track. Kind of like the same situation with Miles Morales. Looks like Venom will be taking the role of like that not mid-gen, but that mid-game, that middle game, kind of like Miles Morales did. Probably not going to be like a big, huge AAA title, even though, again, I will say, I don't care what anybody says, Miles Morales was AAA to me. The quality did not look like it dropped. If anything, that game got better. So if that's pretty much the roadmap of what we have of what Insomniac does, I am sure that this Venom game being released allegedly in 2025 is going to be sensational. Again, we have I left off at Spider-Man 3 being in 2028. They have the new Ratchet and Clank that's going to be releasing in 2029. And I do remember there were not rumors necessarily, but the numbers in these documents had stated that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart didn't make their money back. Well, it has been an update to that story, and they actually did make their money back off of that game. So that's great news for a person like me who is absolutely a fan of Ratchet and Clank and who actually supported and bought that game from Best Buy. So we got that coming in 2029. And then this was the one that would have shut the internet down on the day that it was announced officially. But unfortunately, because of the leaked documents, we have it right here. But they are saying that Marvel's X-Men is going to be releasing in 2030. 2030. Now, I know that's a good long while away. That is 6 whole years plus away, because we don't know if the 2030 timeline is still going to stand, because again, these documents, they were leaked and things can change. So I just wanted to put that out there. But according to the documents, again, it's supposed to be releasing in 2030. And the thing that's so interesting about this is we have heard for roughly about 5 years since, well, for me, it's been more so like 3 years, that Insomniac has said that they are building their own Marvel universe. This is something that they're doing. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, you got Venom, he's a newcomer. You got Wolverine, he's coming out, he's new. And then you got X-Men. Are they going to get to the point where they actually start tying in these different stories with all of these different superheroes? Because X-Men, you got Cyclops, you got Beast, you got Storm, you got Rogue. Who else, man? You got, but Professor X in there as well. I mean, this could be huge. I don't know. When's the last time I've seen a X-Men game? I think that Marvel Alliance that released on the Switch might be the closest thing that we've seen to an X-Men game, and it wasn't, but it had some of the cast, I believe, some of the characters from X-Men in it, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have not seen an official, at least to my knowledge, a X-Men game only, like X-Men. And God, dog, last time I can remember was what, on the Genesis, or man, the arcade version. It had 4 players. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys will be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really, really huge news. Can you imagine if it's co-op, 4-player co-op X-Men? Oh man, it could be amazing. I'm only saying it could be amazing because I'm basing it off of Insomniac's track record that they have not let us down on thus far. So that was like a big takeaway for me, X-Men. And they also have a untitled new IP that's supposed to be releasing in 2031 or 2032. So who knows? Did they get another Marvel character? Did they get Doctor Strange? Did they get, I don't know, Hulk? Or I just don't know who they could have got. I mean, we see that Xbox, they got Blade, which was a huge pickup for them. Now all they got to do is just deliver the goods, Arcane. Deliver the goods. So this is very, very interesting. It's great news. It does suck that it happened to Insomniac, because that is such a dope studio. I'm just sorry it happened to them, but it did. But this roadmap looks so stacked. And this is just one studio. This is just Insomniac. We don't know what Naughty Dog has cooking. Sucker Punch. Who else is on their roster? Some of the new developers that they've picked up. This is a really fantastic roadmap, as long as it stays on track. Because again, we know things can change. But we'll see. But another roadmap shows multiple X-Men games and a second new IP game releasing in 2035. Now, it's another slide that details Insomniac's multiplayer ambitions, which include Spider-Man 2 Online for 2024, Wolverine Online for 2026, and X-Men Online for 2028. Now, it's worth noting these release dates may be out of date. I just want to make sure that I'm just, hammering that home. It's also X-Men license terms that are detailed. $120 million is listed as a development budget for each game, with $30 million earmarked for marketing. Now, all X-Men games are meant to launch by 2035. That is a long way off. What is that? 24, 30. God dog, that's 11 years away. Oh my gosh, will I still be here? I don't know. Wow. I'll be 54, so that's not really that old. It's not like I'd be like pushing 90 or something like that. So yeah, I should prayerfully be here. We'll see though. But the thing is now, hold on, whoa. I might have to back up a little bit because I believe that the Spider-Man online portion, I think that was actually canceled for Spider-Man 2. I think it was something that they were working on, but I think that got canceled. So that is no longer being worked on, at least to my knowledge or what I read. But this roadmap is sick. I mean, you got Venom, Wolverine, X-Men, and an untitled new IP coming out in this next 11-year roadmap, which is absolutely fantastic. So it gives me high hopes for Insomniac. I know some people are saying, oh, now they're regulating them. They're the Marvel studio only. They can't, they don't have any more freedom of different titles to work on. I'm saying to myself, this is phenomenal. I don't know why y'all are upset. They have did nothing but make great games game of the year contenders time and time again. So what are you crying for? Listen, if it gets to the point where things are becoming too much and Insomniac wants to take a step back, I don't know if Sony will let them, being realistic. I don't know, because if they got that money rolling in and it's a winning formula, I can't see Sony stopping and telling them, okay, just chill, go on and do something else. But to me, this is the first time in a long time that we have had a string of fantastic comic book based characters. If you are from my era, if you are 44, you've been out here in these gaming streets for over 30 plus years, you know that it has been just recently, maybe over the last decade or so, maybe slightly more than a decade, that we've actually been getting really good superhero games. It's almost like the effect of we are just finally starting to get good video game movies, movies that are based off of video games. We're finally getting to that point. It was also a struggle when it came to superhero movies. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And we, of course, know that Marvel is kind of in a bit of a down spiral right now. Things aren't looking too good. Hopefully they can get it back on track. But all I'm saying is, this is a good time for gaming. As long as the games are great, as long as they don't lose their quality, I don't see what the problem is. And just the fact, again, that Insomniac is able to have that creative freedom to make the kind of superhero universe, Marvel universe that they want to make, this is great. They have that creative freedom to be able to do so. So for me, it's terrible that it did leak, but man, we got some really, really good things to look forward to in the future. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. Now, I got this next story from Gaming Bolt. So, in positive, and it's going back to Insomniac. I told you it's a heavy Sony show this week. But in positive Insomniac news, Spider-Man Miles Morales has sold 10.2 million copies and as a result has made a profit of $104 million. Wow. Goodness gracious. Got to give it up for him on that one, man. I love it. They had a budget of $156 million to spend on development. Now, Spider-Man Remastered sold a total of 4 million copies and made $11 million profit. Now, this is the interesting thing about this Remastered that I wanted to bring up, because I would think the same thing. I've always said remasters don't cost that much money. You're just throwing a small extra little can of paint on it, not making too many changes or anything like that. It's no way that these remasters are costing y'all any kind of money. Well, come to find out, because of that leak, the development costs for Spider-Man Remastered, it cost them $39 million. $39 million for a remastered version. I said, God, dog, you kidding me? You got to be kidding me. $39 million? It is no way a person outside of a developer, of course, but could have told me that the development cost for a remaster is $39 million. I don't see that big of a difference between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 version. I'm sitting here, absolutely flabbergasted. Almost $40 million for a remaster. So I'm thinking, now this is where my first thought went, was when people talk about them actually putting, and when I say people, I mean, podcasters, websites, YouTubers, you name it. When you talk about them, Sony that is, putting their games on PC, actually converting them over to the PC, I'm saying to myself, I wonder how much that costs. Because if a remastered version costs you $39 million to do, how much are PC versions of these different games actually costing to port over there? I just wanted to put that out there. Did you guys know the remasters, at least Spider-Man that is, now granted, not every remaster may cost this much, but for me, it's not that big of a difference between the two graphically that would make me believe that it costs that much money for them to do this. Some of you guys, were y'all shocked to hear this? I know I sure was. I would love to hear from you. But let's go ahead for the sake of time and move on into the next story. So this is just on a side note. This is actually old at this point. Like I said, we're going to just travel from the older to some of the newer stories. But over the holiday, they actually had Xbox Series X on sale at Best Buy and Target for $400, but they had it at Walmart for $350. Now that joke is gone. That joker is no longer $350. It is now $400 plus in the store. And I will shout out Mike J. What's going on, brother? Mike J sent me that link. Oh, brothers, let me tell you something. My thumb started itching. What's that shit? But I didn't pull the trigger. I did not pull the trigger. I still do not have an Xbox Series X as it stands right now. But it might be a situation. You never know. It might be a situation where I just might have to get this joker, because even right now, it's still going, at least the last time I checked at Best Buy, it was going for $400. And even at $400, I'm still like, oh, you might have me. You might have me. So stay tuned. I think, in the next coming month or two or three, you never know, I might actually be getting a Series X, but, we're going to pump the brakes on that for now. But, let's go ahead and let's get into an actual story, that I actually picked up from Twitter. So in, Dead Space news, it looks like creator and former Striking Distance CEO Glenn Schofield teased on Twitter that he is working on a new project by saying, and I quote, "Although I've taken some time off, I've been extremely busy, and not just drawing, something in games that's new and exciting. Can't wait to share more after the new year." End of quote. And that will officially be tomorrow, will be 2024. So Schofield's last project, if you weren't aware, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, was unfortunately Callisto Protocol, which, to be fair, it did not put the gaming streets on fire as it was. I mean, it was a beautiful looking game. It had that next gen can of paint on it. It was looking beautiful. But when it came to that gameplay, whoa, it just left a bit to be desired. It was not Dead Space-esque, as it were. But we will see what happens with Mr. Schofield's next upcoming project. Hopefully, he will have better success on this next project that is coming up in the future. That, again, according to him, we will learn more about after the new year. Let's go ahead and get into another story yet again from Twitter universe, as it were, or if you want to call it X, that is fine by me. So Toys for Bob came out on Twitter and said, quote, "We took some time out to get together and share our latest experiments in UE5 or Unreal Engine 5. It was a full day of excellent presentations with plenty of learning and fresh ideas for the new year." Now, the reason why this post is getting, end of quote, by the way, but the reason why this post is getting any traction is because underneath the post, someone took a picture of some of the team members and a picture of a TV screen also appeared in the same photo, but the TV screen was blurred out. But the blurred out image looks purple. So some are speculating. Now, when I say some, I'm talking about social media, whether it be Twitter or X, whatever you call it. We're talking about podcasts. We're talking about YouTube, different outlets, as it were, that are speculating that this could be Spyro 4. Now, of course, this has not been confirmed. But even when I saw the picture that one of the team members of Toys for Bob took, and I saw that screen blurred out, I mean, I will be honest, that thing looked purple as the Raven colors. Matter of fact, shout out to my Ravens. They won today. They beat up on the Miami Dolphins. Oh man. Man, I hope this year is our year. Man, that was a sensational game. 2 weeks in a row. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about football here. Let's get back to the game. But I had to shout them out. But the thing is, now, of course, like I said, the screen looked purple. It looked like it could be Spyro, and people have been asking, what's going on with Spyro? Is it coming back? Now, you guys might have heard me maybe an episode or two ago say that I was never the biggest Spyro fan back on PlayStation 1 when it released. I was like, nah. Crash is much better. He's a doper character. I don't know about this dragon little dude. I don't know about him. He blowing fire and it all seems cool, but I don't know about that. Matter of fact, am I right or wrong about this fact about Spyro? Was Spyro one of the first games on the original PlayStation that actually used the analog sticks? Because you guys remember, PlayStation didn't always have those analog sticks. It wasn't until N64, Nintendo, the OG, came out with their analog sticks. And I do believe that Spyro was one of their first games that actually required that PlayStation controller with the dual analog sticks on it. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but just a little bit of history about Spyro. But again, you guys remember, if you did hear that episode, like I said, I wasn't the biggest Spyro fan until I picked up that remake bundle. It was all 3 Spyros in this bundle, and I caught it on a sale on Xbox. And I didn't really expect much out of it, but I was like, dang, man, this thing is like 15 or $20. I'm like, golly, even if it's not that great, I didn't lose anything. And ended up playing it and loved it. Absolutely loved it. So again, it's kind of the same effect like I was saying with Ratchet and Clank, I didn't become a Ratchet and Clank fan until the PlayStation 4 version. I didn't care about the PS2 version of Ratchet and Clank or PS3 version, but that PlayStation 4 version made me a real fan. So for me, am I excited to know to see another Ratchet and Clank? I mean, not Ratchet and Clank, Spyro actually release? I am. I'm actually really interested, especially with the graphics that we have today and knowing, and listen to this, knowing that could be an Xbox exclusive because of Jim Ryan actually just wanting Call of Duty and not worrying about any other IPs underneath Activision's belt. Spyro could be a legit exclusive only on Xbox, and it would be a great platformer. They would finally be able to compete with, now granted, now I know y'all saying, whoa, Kiaun, hold on, wait a minute. Compete with Mario? You're smoking crack right now. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they will have their own platformer, and it won't be that other Fox. I forget that Fox that they tried to have a run and whatnot. Lucky Tales? Oh, shucks, golly. Lucky Tales, man, if you don't get that joke up out of here. Listen, Spyro would be a much, much better mascot when it comes to actual, like platforming, that type of genre, because Spyro at least does have credit out here in the gaming streets. He is at least a bit of a name. Ain't nobody know about no Lucky Tales. Oh, man. Anyway, I hope this is true. I really, really do. And, we will see in the future. Again, hopefully, 2024 brings a lot of new projects our way. Should be another great year in gaming. I don't think it's going to reach the heights of 2023. I don't think we're going to see 2023 for a very long time, if ever. It's going to be really, really hard, in my opinion, for any year to actually top 2023, because it was just that many sensational games that came out. So like every month, something was dropping in all different genres, fighting genre, the Dungeons and Dragons genre, rolling the dice and whatnot, that coming out, driving, action adventure. You had, again, Marvel, with Spider-Man, with Insomniac having, a comic book game come out. It was just such a incredibly well-rounded year. You had platformers and, Mario, Wonder coming out. It was so many different things that we got this year, which was absolutely amazing. So to have a rounded year like we had this year going into next year, I do not see it. I think we will have some bright spots, in 2024, but I do not think we're going to have the bum rush of amazing IPs that we had this year. So, hopefully with that being said, maybe somewhere down the line, I was about to say E3, but we know what happened to E3. It's no longer around, but hopefully sometime in June, when Xbox actually does their summer show, maybe we'll see something on it. Or, January last year, Xbox had a heck of a January. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was actually shadow drop that month. That show that they had in January, that was a solid show. So maybe we get some information, at that point in time. I don't know. I'm thinking more so we'll hear more about, Senua's, it's not Senua's Sacrifice, but Hellblade 2. We'll probably hear more. I'm hoping at that show. Wouldn't that be something? I mean, we see that all of the cards are on the table. If they're having that January show again, which I haven't heard any word that that's what they're doing, Microsoft that is, or Xbox. But if they have that show in January, how awesome would it be to actually get those details about, Hellblade 2 releasing and getting to know the characters and what the story is going to be and things of that nature. I'm hoping that that's where they'll actually show it off at. And it doesn't have to be at a summer show, because I'm hoping, some people are thinking or believing that it will release in the first quarter of 2024. I don't think so. I think that's a little too early. I'm thinking more so in the middle. So maybe the second quarter or going into possibly the third quarter of 2024. But we will see. But let's go ahead and let's move on into the next story. So we got to go back. Now, I got this story from Insider Gaming. So we got to go back to Insomniac again for a third time. Because if you were, and this is the only reason why I'm bringing this up, because if you were a Sunset Overdrive fan like myself, I'm sure you wondered why Xbox never greenlit a sequel. I thought, man, it had everything. I thought it had a fun story. It wasn't a deep story, anything like that. Had to do with a energy drink company, putting some kind of toxins in it or whatever, mutating people. So the story was not deep at all. It was just a fun, goofy kind of story. It was just that it was dope. I loved it. So I was such a big fan, and I wondered why they just would not green light a sequel. Well, come to find out, it was an actual good reason why they didn't do this. So this info again stems from the unfortunate leak over there at Insomniac. So, Sunset, Overdrive, it cost $42,682,135 to develop. And the game sold 1,898,433 copies, making a total of $49,737,133. So you would think they made around $7 million profit off of those numbers. Well, my friends, they did not. After costs had been divided, because it was co-developed between Insomniac and Blind Squirrel Games, Insomniac made a total of $567. Now that is it. Again, this is based off of what the leaks have showed. The game literally netted them a profit of $567. Oh my gracious to life. That is rough. I gotta imagine that didn't even cover one of the Insomniac developers' paychecks with that kind of doggone money. Oh my gosh. $567 was all they saw. Now, granted, I don't know exactly if Microsoft or Xbox saw more of that $7 million that should have been profit. Like I said, they had to split the cost with, let's see, what was their name again? Blind Squirrel. So I don't know, but $567, man, I can't imagine Xbox saw too much more. Because if they had seen more, we know if Xbox finds something that works and it sells, they will make it again and again and again. Forza, Halo, and Gears. They keep making them because they keep selling. So that just gives an idea of how bad the game actually performed. And also, just to put this more into perspective, this was during the time when Xbox One was getting hammered. They were getting lit up like a scoreboard. It was nothing they could do that was good enough. They didn't have the resolution. They didn't have the power. Eventually, it got to the point where they didn't have the games, but this was even during the time when they actually had games, but they had to recover from that TV that was on the E3 stage at that time. They just had too much to get over the hump for, back when, what was his name? Forgot his name, but he said, you know, if you want an Xbox, I got one for you. It's the Xbox 360. I said, God dang, man. I mean, it was just fumble after fumble after fumble. Then it started to get to the point where they were asking about used games and the DRM and how that was going to work. And they just had a lot of different hurdles to jump over, and they just couldn't jump over all of them. So as a result, a lot of their games at that time, they actually just were busts. It didn't necessarily mean they were bad games, but nobody was really feeling Xbox One at that time. And that whole narrative pretty much went through that whole generation. They never could shake it, and they're still finding themselves in that same position because, again, with this generation, they're messing up because they're making it so you don't need an Xbox Series X or even an S to play their games. And they are continuously pushing that narrative that you don't need a console, no console required. So what do you think is going to happen? Then you're being outperformed by the PlayStation 5 when it comes to certain games that are performing better than yours. Excuse me. It's just, we're not seeing the Series X actually benefit from the power under the hood because the Series S is holding it back because it needs to be parity. It has to work on both. I mean, they just continue to put themselves in a hole after hole after hole. It's like they jump out of one hole just to jump into another one. So it was just a bad time. So that's why, you know, games like Sunset Overdrive didn't sell well. Games like, what was it? Son of, Rome. What was it? Rise, Son of Rome didn't sell that well. And I had Rise, and I thought that was it was a good game. It had what you call a good basis to actually build on. It had a good base to build on, where the sequel would have probably been much better than the first one because they kind of, you know, just had to work out a couple of kinks, you know, and they would have been good. I mean, it was one of the most beautiful looking games at the time. And I've seen it recently, not recently, maybe about a year ago or so, and it still seemed like it was holding up pretty doggone good, even in today's time. So they had games. It was just a situation where Xbox was just in a bad spot. So, yeah, that's why they didn't greenlight a sequel to Sunset Overdrive 2, which means even looking through the documents. Now, that is interesting. I just thought about this over there at Insomniac, the leaked documents. There is no mention of a Sunset Overdrive 2, which I think is a missed opportunity. And I don't believe that Microsoft actually owns the IP. I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm sure that Sony actually owns it, so they could actually make a Sunset Overdrive 2, or they're doing all of these remasters and whatnot. Shucks, remaster that and put it out and see what it does. You know, I think that Sunset Overdrive could be a really, really good IP as long as they put the resources and the time behind it. I thought it was a really, really good game, but just wanted to report on that. It made a total of $567 profit for Insomniac. Oof, that was rough. Let's go ahead and get into the next story. Now, this next story actually comes to us from Gaming Bible. That's one of my favorites right there. Shout out to them. But some Batman fans were starting to get worried that the Batman Arkham series has run its course and decided to reach out to DC boss James Gunn and asked, quote, "Hey James, will the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League be the final game for the Arkham universe?" End of quote. Gunn responded with, quote, "No plans of it being the last." End of quote. So it looks like after the Suicide Squad does release, which I'm still looking forward to that. And I don't know if you guys were aware of this. It was a rumor that had happened. These different websites were actually reporting on it. Now I'm talking about could have been IGN, could have been Gaming Bible. I don't know exactly which website it was, but it was word out there and it was going around on X or Twitter that the ending had actually leaked for Suicide Squad, and come to find out that was false. That is not the ending. So if you heard this false narrative that the ending actually was released and leaked out, that was false. The person that said that it was the ending actually admitted, if I'm not mistaken, that they actually lied about that. So none of that was true. Just to put just a little bit of light on that, because I know the Kill the Justice League hasn't been getting the best. It's not really a review, but they got early access. Some people did. And they weren't as impressed, the early access community. A lot of them weren't like super impressed with the game. But for me, I'm still going to give it a shot. I want to know what it's about, because after I heard that how bad, what was it? The latest, it wasn't Batman, Gotham Knights, how bad everybody thought Gotham Knights was. And I played that and I'm like, God, dog, y'all jokers are crazy. This game is awesome. After I had experienced that, I'm like, nah, if it's a game that I want to try, forget the reviewers. Y'all get it wrong all the time. I'm going to definitely check this out. And I would recommend that if it's a game, or not a game, but if Suicide Squad is a game that you want to check out, definitely give it a shot, man. See what's up with it. But again, it looks like the Arkham franchise is still alive, so we'll see what happens with that. Maybe it'll happen, like I said, after Suicide Squad releases. Maybe they'll start development on that next, but we shall see. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. So this next story actually comes to us from IGN. That's where I picked it up from. So Sony has a patent that will adapt the difficulty of a video game in real time according to the player's skill level. Now, this patent was filed on December 7th, 2023, which means this is brand new, just happened. Now, the patent reads, and I quote, "When the user gaming performance level does not correspond to an expected level of performance parameters that change the difficulty of the game may be changed automatically. Parameters that relate to movement, speed, delay, or hesitation, character strengths, numbers of competitors, or other metrics may be changed incrementally until a current user performance level corresponds to an expectation level of a particular user currently playing the game. At this time, the user expectation level may be changed, and the process may be repeated as skills of the user are developed over time." End of quote. Now, this kind of reminds me of Grand Theft Auto, the Grand Theft Auto franchise, or Red Dead Redemption, that franchise, because according to what I can remember, I cannot remember it being a hard, easy, or normal mode in those games. Because y'all know me, I'm going for the easy doggone difficulty. I told y'all I play games for fun, not for difficulty. I'm trying to get through and win and enjoy myself. So I'm always looking for the easy difficulty when it comes to the games. And I cannot remember ever finding it in those two franchises. So I'm guessing, and I beat all of those games. I beat GTA 4, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 1, and Red Dead Redemption 2. And I don't recall them ever being like super difficult to actually go through. I remember dying quite a few times, but whenever I would come back, it never got to the point where it was like super, how would you say, it never got to the point where I was just so frustrated where I just wanted to quit. So I'm thinking, I wonder if Rockstar has something in their games that actually kind of goes to your difficulty play style, like it actually adapts. I don't know that for sure. Maybe one of you guys can call in or write in and let me know that, but I can never again remember it being a difficulty setting in those games. So it seems like that's what Sony is going to be doing. If you're not actually reaching the parameters of where you should be at the level that you're at, that they'll actually be adjusting those things on the fly to, to make the difficulty kind of, pretty much go down to your playing level, which I appreciate. I truly, truly do. I do, because I'll tell you guys up front, I'm not the best at gaming. I'm really not, but I love it. I love it. I absolutely do. The only game that I can remember that I played on hard difficulty and actually was racking up wins was Fight Night. It was, what was it? Fight Night. The last Fight Night that came out. I got so good playing on easy that I bumped it up to normal. I was crushing it on normal and got up to the highest difficulty and was actually winning. So that's like the only game that's ever made me want to play on a harder difficulty, because I was just so committed to that game. I loved it so much that I just wanted to keep playing over and over again. And plus, back then, I was actually playing Fight Night online, and I ain't gonna lie, I was getting washed. I was getting beat out the frame. Oh man, jokers was putting gloves to face on my character online. I couldn't do nothing with these guys. Matter of fact, I think that's why I started playing on the harder difficulty, because I was getting beat so bad online that I was forced to learn how to play on hard difficulty. And let me tell you, playing online will humble you down ASAP. I'm saying to myself, man, I'm doing pretty good on this hard difficulty. Let me jump online and play. Man, they mopped the floor. Man, I ain't have a chance. I might have knocked a couple of people down, but that was about it. I mean, golly, if I played, I'm just going to do a ratio. If I played like 10 matches online, I probably won about 3. So I was terrible. I was batting 33%, online when it came down to Fight Night. But, yeah, man. Oh, shucks. Yeah, I was pretty bad. But I love it though, man. Playing these games, I want to get the stories. I want to see the characters actually evolve. I just love the process of playing the games. And I mean, I come from that era, the original Nintendo era, Super Nintendo, where Super Nintendo, it kind of, the difficulty did ease up some, but on the original Nintendo, God, dog, the most frustrating game to me to this day, and I actually played it recently on the Switch, was Ninja Gaiden. And shucks. That title screen came up. I mean, it was one of the greatest intros I had ever seen in a game at that time when I was, 8, maybe 9 years old, seeing them running in the field. I've talked about it a billion times on this podcast, but it was just so impactful. But when I started playing that game, God, dog, man, it was so darn hard, man. So when I actually played it on the Switch, man, I was using that rewind feature. Y'all hear me? I was rewind, play it again, rewind, play it again. I did not have any shame, man. I mean, that game was so hard. But anyway, I think I was scarred back then from trying to play any hard games, because it seemed like every game was just so hard back then. Battletoads was another one. You getting that speed tunnel on that doggone jet ski. Oh, shucks. You ain't gonna survive, brothers. Dag. Anyway, let me get back on track, going down memory lane with y'all and whatnot. God, dog. But, yeah, so again, getting back to this difficulty with Sony, I think this is a great idea. I know that they're always trying to make games more and more accessible to everybody so that everybody can enjoy them. And I think this is a really good move. Now, granted, it's a patent. It's been filed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to bring it to market. Just like Sony had filed a patent for a controller that's supposed to change from hot to cold, which would be sensational If they bring that joke out, man, this is my dream controller. Let me just talk to y'all before the end of the year, just real quick. My dream controller, man, is a controller that actually has those hot, cold, and warm settings so you can actually feel the environment that you're going through. And I want to take it a step further. Now, I've said this years ago, but I want to bring it back up just to run it back one more time. And Sony, they actually got it like partly right with the DualSense. They are like right on track with it. But I want the analog sticks to actually stiffen up as you're going through mud, or get loose as you're going over ice, things of that nature. And Sony is like right there. They are right there with it, with the DualSense. So if anybody was to do something with the controller, to really kind of revolutionize it yet again, at one point in time, I would have said it probably would have been Nintendo, but Nintendo has been kind of laxed a little bit over the last generation or so. But Sony, they are on a winning formula. And I will say it again for the record. That DualSense controller is not, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it is not overrated. That thing is incredible. When you play, God, dog, Astrobot on the PlayStation 5, which is a pack-in, that game is remarkable. That should be their new platformer. That should be their platformer. I had more fun with Astrobot than I did with Mario Odyssey. I thought Astrobot was a better game than Mario Odyssey, and I didn't think it was close. Just a fun factor, because of course you gotta take into consideration the different controllers. The DualSense is just, it is just amazing when you're shooting the gun and you actually feel the trigger like vibrating, like it would if you were shooting a real gun, like pop, 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 pop. And I'm like, God dang, man, I have never experienced anything like this. This is sensational. But anyway, we're going to cut this off, man. We're going to cut this and we're going to move on to the next story. We already over an hour in. We're going to go ahead and cut this one and move on to the next one. But all I'm saying is this is great. It'll help with more people being able to access or gaming being more accessible to a wider audience. But let's go ahead and move on into the next story. And of course, we're sticking with PlayStation, and I actually got this next story from PlayStation Lifestyle. So again, this is unfortunate PlayStation news, because it's being reported that PlayStation is reportedly closing another studio. Now, this info came out because of, again, the Insomniac leaked documents. And speaking of Insomniac, again, despite Spider-Man 2 being successful, the studio discussed cutting, quote, 50 to 75 people strategically, end of quote. 50 to 75 people were discussed in being cut, and this game was actually successful. But I'm gonna continue on. It says, but there were concerns. Now, this is where they might not have actually laid off the people, but I don't know for sure. But there were concerns of laying off studio veterans, which could result in losing, quote, institutional knowledge and leadership that is key for future titles, end of quote. Now getting back to the closure, which that would be crazy. If you're knocking off that many people and you got some veterans in there that have done their time and they're no longer going to be there, that can shift everything. Great leadership is needed. And over at Insomniac, these guys are performing on 10 right now. So it's no way that you want to lose that DNA that they have over there at that studio. So hopefully that 50 to 75 people were not cut, especially not the veterans. But let's get back to the closure at hand. Now, it was reported that Sony had an off-site meeting on allegedly November 9th, where Sony mentioned that, quote, there will be one studio closure, end of quote. Now, this meeting also happened after Sony shut down Pixel Opus, who were the studio behind Concrete Genie and Entwined. Now, Concrete Genie, actually, just to give this just a little bit more of an inside look into this studio. Concrete Genie sits at a Metacritic user score of 8.1 and has 474 user ratings. That is a lot of reviews to still be sitting at a solid 8.1 after 474 users reviewed your game. That is a fantastic score. I mean, we've seen, and it ain't no shot, but we've seen what has happened to Starfield over the last couple of months as more and more reviews have come in for the game. The game has actually dropped little by little with the score. But getting back to it, the critics review have it at a 75 or 7.5 with 87 reviews. Now, that's still a good score. But with Entwined, the critic score was actually 59. Sheesh! With 49 reviews and a user score of 6.7 with 187 reviews. But to be fair, Entwined was their first offering back in 2014, and Concrete Genie was their second, releasing in 2019. So they were headed in a very positive direction, but they were still cut, and they were going up the charts, as it were. But it didn't matter. They still cut them. So now that we know that this next studio shutdown is among us, what studio could it be? Are they going to cut Sony Bend? Could that be the studio? London studio? Team Asobi? Oh, wait. They cannot. Man, I don't give a doggone. They cannot cut Team Asobi. That's the team behind Astrobot. That team is so creative, man. I don't really rave about platformers like that too much, but if you haven't played Astrobot, I'm not trying to hype it up too much. You might play it and be like, man, Keys was tripping on that one. It ain't all that. But from my perspective, man, they were just so creative with how they used the controller, how they let you feel what the controller was capable of in the right development hands of what you could get from that controller. It was one of the best. Me and Mike J joked about it. It was like it should have won an award for best tech demo or something like that. It should have got something for that. It was just that great. So I hope it's not Team Asobi, but the word on the street is that it may be Media Molecule. And of course, that's the Little Big Planet studio. They just had, I forgot that game that they had where you could actually create things in the game. I believe that got shut down not too long ago, but Media Molecule has been with them for a very, very long time. But that's the word. It could be Media Molecule. Nobody knows for sure. They also have Fire Sprite Studios. It's just no telling, because the thing about Fire Sprite that is interesting is, they're a pretty big VR focused studio. So we know that Sony's stance on VR right now at this moment, they're not necessarily dropping it, but it is taking a bit of a back seat. So if the VR, the PSVR 2 is going to be taking a bit of a back seat because of low sales, then it would make sense that it would unfortunately be Fire Sprite, but we just don't know. I would love to know what you guys think, what studio it is, because we darn sure know it ain't Naughty Dog. It's not their big teams. It's not any of their big teams. I can't see them getting rid of Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch or Sony Santa Monica. It's no, by the way, God dog, man, I got to say this, talking about Sony Studios and Sony Santa Monica. I am playing through God of War, Ragnarok. I got about, man, at this point in time, I think I got like 14, maybe 15 hours in, somewhere around there. God dang, man. Holy smoke. That game right there, man. This game continues to get better and better and better. This thing is taking turns that I did not see coming. I'm working with people I didn't think would happen inside of the game. This game, man, it deserved every single award that it got, what was that, last year? It should have won Game of the Year. I don't care about that doggone, that granted, okay, I didn't play it, but the game last year, what was it? That took the whole, gaming world by storm. It was the Souls-like game. I can't even remember the name of it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. The game that won last year, Game of the Year. That was a total robbery from what I have played off of God of War Ragnarok. This game is absolutely full. It is amazing. It truly is like a top tier game. And you want to talk about graphics. I was looking on Twitter. I forgot the brother's name. I would love to shout him out because it's nothing but love. I got nothing but love for him. But he was saying that Gears of War 5 was like the best looking game, this generation. It was great looking. It's, he was just praising it. Nah, I don't see anything wrong with that. Gears of War 5 is a nice looking game. It really is on the Xbox Series X. But I just told the brother, I said, listen, it's a dope game. I love Gears 5. I actually have it and played it. I didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be, either. But I was like, but if you want to see something, man, you need to look at Horizon Forbidden West. Those graphics are ridiculous. That game is absolutely stunning to look at. And I believe that, for a very, very long time since I played it, earlier, this year. So I'm not going to say a very long time. I believed it for this whole year that Horizon was the best looking game this generation. I'ma tell y'all, man, there's certain scenes that are happening in God of War Ragnarok where I'm looking around at the graphics and I'm like, God, dog, this doesn't look real. This does not look like this should be in a video game. I mean, I'm so glad it is. I'm overjoyed that the game looks as great as it does, but I'm like, God, dog. And this was a cross-gen developed game, and it looks this good. I'm saying those two right now, of course, I haven't played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart yet. I haven't played Spider-Man 2 either. Or what's another game? Like Dead Space Remake or Resident Evil 4. I haven't played those yet, but right now, God, dog, right now, those two are leading the charge for me as just best looking graphics I have seen this generation. I'm not going to go out the window and say it's not even close. I'm not going to go that far, but I will say those two games, they are definitely a notch, maybe a notch and a half above some of the competitors out there. And dag, I just thought of this. They are both cross-gen developed titles. Darn. But we will see. Getting back to the story at hand about this closure, we will see what happens with this. Hopefully, I hope it's not Team Asobi or Media. I don't want any team to get shut down. Because that means jobs are going to be lost. And it is it's a tough environment out here, man. Things are so high. I mean, it's just me and my wife, that we have to worry about taking care of, just us two. And our food bill, just for two of us for a week, is like $150, $160 just for us. Sometimes it even teeters to like 180, depending on what we're getting. And that's just us two, so I'm just imagining people that actually have families, like it's them, their spouse, and they got 2 or 3 kids. That's a heck of a financial burden. And then you got to clothe them. You got to, I just said feed them. You got, they got activities they got to do. Christmas just passed. Oh, it's tough, man. So from that perspective, I just really hope that it won't be a studio. But again, according to this Insomniac leak, this is supposed to happen. So maybe, just maybe, and hopefully things have changed and no studios will actually have to have their doors closed, because we've lost so many studios, man, in the last couple of years. I just would hope that it's a trend that doesn't continue to go on, going into the new year, but let's go ahead, guys. Let's go ahead and move on, because we are at our final story for the week. So this last story, I actually got this one from Gaming Bible. So there is also a rumor. Matter of fact, brothers, the Rumorville. We're going to hit Rumorville Boulevard.
Rumor has it, it's something that only I know.
So this is the rumor. So it's about the original God of War trilogy being remastered. Now, this rumor comes from so-called industry insider Nick Baker, who said, and I will say, I've never heard of this brother. I don't know what his track record is, but that is his name, Nick Baker, who said, quote, I told a friend of mine who also loves the OG God of War trilogy that this might be happening. Then they got very excited. And I've heard that we might be getting the original God of War trilogy remastered on PlayStation. End of quote. Now, this story right here, it could, and I say this with a mustard seed of hope, it could hold some truth. It could hold some weight, because Christopher Judge did say in a recent interview that he wouldn't voice young Kratos out of respect for T.C. Carson, who, as we all know, was the voice actor for the earlier games. So my thing is this, man, hearing that small hint that, Christopher Judge wouldn't do that, it makes me just think a little bit more, like I said, a mustard seed of hope that this may be true. And I will say this, God dog, Sony, wait a minute. I do have to point this out. Sony, y'all are doing, if this is true, this is a lot of remasters that are coming out from y'all. You had the original Last of Us release. You got The Last of Us Part 2 that's going to be not remastered, but what is it? No, yeah, remastered. Yeah, remastered. Actually releasing. They're talking about Horizon, the first one, Horizon Zero Dawn, being remastered, and now God of War, the whole trilogy, being remastered. God dog, Sony. Now, I will say this for God of War. I never played the first one or the second one. I did play the third one, and that joint was dope. I will say that was, man, Kratos had a lot of built up anger in that game, man. Zeus, I mean, he was going off, man. God, that Joker had anger issues. But it was great. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Those boss fights, God dog. Hey, man, listen. Those boss fights in 3, God dog. those boss fights were better than God of War 2018. I saw why people were a little upset about the boss fights in God of War 2018 because, man, when you play God of War 3, I mean, it seemed like all of those boss fights were very, very epic. And I will say this for God of War Ragnarok, the boss fights are way better. I mean, much improved with God of War Ragnarok versus God of War 2018. Quite a few different boss types because in God of War 2018, spoiler coming up in 3, 2, 1, you actually fought so many trolls in God of War 2018. It was like, dag, man, where's the variation of bosses to fight in here? They had a couple of good ones in between, but it was too many trolls, so they've actually remedied that situation with God of War Ragnarok. I'm seeing a whole lot of different enemy types, and it's been phenomenal. But for me, missing out on God of War 1 and 2, that would be enough of a reason for me to actually go back and play those if this is something that Sony is going to be working on. So I'm like I can't even say I'm really excited. I'm a little concerned actually about what Sony has going on over there. I understand that their teams are very busy. Well, hopefully they are busy working on some next gen titles, Naughty Dog or whoever may have you, all of their studios, but they are remastering us to death over here with this stuff. So I'm just hoping that maybe this is to buy time for them to be able to come out with some newer gaming experiences, because this is getting borderline ridiculous at this point. I mean, you got more than Insomniac over there. And if you didn't think Insomniac was carrying the weight for PlayStation like a cargo ship right now, think about all of the other teams. Now, granted, God of War Ragnarok did just come out last year, so let me calm down a little bit. But I'm talking about Sucker Punch, and somebody else. Can't think. Naughty Dog has had a little bit of time, but still, they need a little bit more time to cook or whatever the case may be. But it's been Insomniac. They have been the crown prince around this mother lover when it comes to PlayStation and actually giving the most bang for the buck and the most consistent. So I'm hoping that these other teams, they will get their stuff together. But PlayStation, I don't think they had a bad, matter of fact, we'll discuss it. Well, anyway, that is the end of the gaming news this week. Hopefully it's true. But we will, man, matter of fact, hold on, man. I got the break script for a second. I don't hope it's true. I hope that it's just a rumor and it stays a rumor. PlayStation, forget this remakes and remasters and stuff. Give us new games, please. We would really appreciate that. I know that's much easier said than done. I get it. I don't know if you guys are having money problems over there. That's rumors going on about that. Do I believe that or not? I don't know. I don't know, because I think it would be fair to say that some of the things that have been happening over at Sony have been very questionable when it comes to the money. When you had Naughty Dog actually come out and say, look, we couldn't do both. We couldn't make single player and we couldn't make multiplayer all at the same time. It had to be one or the other. I can only imagine it possibly could have been a budget thing, even down to the fact, and I mean, I again applaud Sony for not doing it. Even when it comes down to paying the ransom for the Insomniac leak, the $2 million, they didn't pay that. Somebody could try to spin that into a negative and say, oh man, PlayStation didn't have the bread for that either. I'm not going to go that far to say that they didn't have the money, because we got to remember, Sony is a multi-million-dollar company. Matter of fact, hold on, man. Hold on. Let's see if I can do something real quick. Just real quick, before we get into the next section of the podcast. Let's do something right now with each other. I'm going to ask this question. and we'll get the answer together. How much is Sony worth? It says Sony is worth 119. Oh man, I'm getting a phone call. I told y'all, this is unprofessional production. Soon as I turn the Bluetooth on my phone to connect to the Roadcast, I get a phone call. God dog. That was my sister. And shout out to her. I'm gonna call her back in a minute. But they're worth $119.62 billion. So, I mean, that's Sony as a whole. We're not talking about PlayStation, but everybody over on the Xbox side want to always lump Xbox in with Microsoft as a whole. I mean, why can't we do it for Sony? So they're worth $119.62 billion. So they're not broke, even by, not by a long shot. So it just goes to, you got to start asking the questions, what is going on over there at Sony? What is happening with development? The cost of these games are crazy. I think Spider-Man 2 was like $300 million to make? I mean, that's astronomical. I'm trying to figure out how did the game cost that much money to make? What, $300 million? God, dog. Thinking of it from that standpoint, I can almost halfway, don't want it to happen, but halfway can understand why they said we might have to cut 50 to 75 people. This is just too much. But Sony, please get it together. You obviously have the money. Now, whether or not this is liquid money that they have on hand or if it's, wrapped up in stocks and bonds and things of that nature, you got the money. Matter of fact, you're even up on the stock market today by 0.042%. Each share of Sony is $94.69 a share. So that's up. So yeah, Sony, get it together. But now officially, that is the end of the news this week. So let's get into this week's video game theater. Oh man, in this week's video game theater, we're going to take a look back at November 15th, 2011, to a game that was amazing when it came to the open world genre. And that is no other than Saints Row the Third. And we'll be taking a look back at the intro mission that set the tone for what I believe, oh man, that's a message, for what I believe is a classic game. So we will be back after, again, this week's Video Game Theater. Stay tuned, guys.
Get the chopper and lift this baby out of here.
Hey guys, you can call up the helicopter. Found the way to open the vault.
Don't touch it!
Josh, are you trying to get us all jail time?
What? I don't want to be some dude's...
Do I have to go after him?
Forget about it, he'll be fine.
How long until the chopper gets here?
I don't know. Probably like 2 waves of SWAT guys.
Sounds about right. Really? A attack chopper?
Seriously, who are these guys?
A bunch of assholes.
Here's our ride.
Go! You two go out the back.
And you?
Stay with the bomb.
We'll see you when we touch down.
All right, let's go. Hold her steady.
Where did the security come from?
plan. Thought I shut that thing down.
Troy can't bail you out of this one. Make this easy on the squad for once. Please autograph and then put down your gun.
The hell are we still here?
Control's not responding.
Then get it fixed. I'll hold off the cops.
You can't kill them all.
I appreciate that kind of negativity.
Saints Row the Third. God dog. Oh, Volition, you had something. They had something on their hands. Why did you have to change the format? God dog. Saints Row the Third, man, I had not played Saints Row 1 or 2, wasn't interested in them at all. I always thought of them as GTA knockoffs. But with Saints Row the Third, it was just so different. It was just zany and fun, and it was just so different from Grand Theft Auto, from that franchise. It was like they actually cut out, it was like they custom fit, you know, a open world genre for them to coexist in along with Grand Theft Auto. They had such a great formula going. Then you get to Saints Row 4. I know they got a little off the rails with the alien stuff, but I still thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but they kind of, they moved a little left, you know, with that. But then the latest Saints Row that released, I didn't play it. Didn't hear too many great things about it. And even some guys that I actually we usually align with each other's opinion. Shout out to my brother Les, man. Shout out to him. That's my guy. He was like, man, it just isn't the same, you know, this new Saints Row. So seems like they kind of messed up the format. I probably still will pick up the latest Saints Row, only because I'm still a fan. But man, I miss that Saints Row the Third energy, man. With that, man, listen, the weapons, I ain't even gonna go into the weapons. This is PG over here. But y'all know the weapons that you had in Saints Row. God, dog, Saints Row one more time, man. Golly. I'ma miss that franchise. Golly, it was so promising. Well, guys, we are finally into our final section of the podcast. And of course, I know you guys saw the question early on, and I appreciate you again tuning in. So let's go over it officially. So the question that I have for you guys is, what score would you give the big three for 2023? That's PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. Me, I thought PlayStation, I thought they did fantastic. I know people want to talk about, they didn't have a lot of first party titles come out this year, but they had exclusives. So you can't take that from them. I'm not going to push the narrative of, okay, if it's not from first party, it doesn't count. That's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. If you have an exclusive on your platform and you can't get it anywhere else, and no, I'm not talking about PC. We know it's gonna mostly, for the most part, if it's not first party, it's gonna show up on PC. But I'm talking about the big three. If it's not gonna show up on Nintendo and it's not gonna show up on Xbox, that is a win in my opinion. So for me, I thought PlayStation was solid this year. I would give them a B. I mean, they had Final Fantasy 16. They had Spider-Man 2 that was released this year. I feel like I'm missing another big title that they had as well, but I thought that they deserved a B. Nintendo, they did excellent for their fan base. And I am a fan of Nintendo, but I would be lying to y'all if I said that I play my Switch as much as I played my Xbox or my PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 been getting all of the shine lately. I haven't even been touching the Xbox or the Switch lately. So, but for what they have released this year, I might have to give them, man, God dog, I would probably say an A for what they've done. I mean, having Zelda, a new Zelda and a new Mario come out in the same year along with Pikmin as well, and then having Mario RPG also released this year as well, a remake of that. That's a solid year for them. So, I mean, they're pretty high up. Maybe a A minus, B plus, somewhere around in there. Maybe a B plus, A minus, somewhere around there. But for Microsoft, theirs is difficult because it's like, man, I saw they were trying. They were really, really trying this year. They just hit some hard breaks, man. They couldn't get over the hump this year. They had Redfall, that set the tone, and God dog, that was a bad tone setter. You know, being one of the lower rated games of the year, not the lowest rated, but one of the lower of the of 2023. Then you had Forza. That took a bit of a backseat. Still a really good game, very solid sound. Took a bit of a backseat though for some, with some of the features that were added in to the game. Hi-Fi Rush, that was a bright spot, and it was a shadow drop. Nobody saw it coming. It was a really good game, very well received. Received two awards at the Video Game Awards. Two of those, that was a bright spot. But then you come to the one game that everybody, including myself, put a lot of pressure on, and it's Starfield. And Starfield did not deliver on the level that we all thought it would. I'm not saying it's a bad game. From what I've heard, it's not necessarily a bad game. It's just not a great Bethesda game, a great Todd Howard game. It didn't reach the heights that were put on it to, for it to reach to. So with those four, I mean, the positives are they had 4 exclusives come out this year from their first party studios. That is fantastic. We've been waiting on that. So that is positive. The negative is the biggest game that they had, that big joint that was supposed to come out in Starfield, didn't quite reach where it was supposed to. And is that fair for Starfield? I think kind of it is, because, Todd Howard going out there saying there was hundreds of planets and all of this other stuff. I mean, definitely put a lot of toppings on that sandwich for sure, so it just didn't deliver, so overall, I would probably say for Xbox, I would give them a C plus. I would give them a C plus because it was effort there. They fought this year. They really tried, man. They really, really did. And I'm only laughing like that because I'm like, dang, man, one of their best efforts, in many years. They had a great E3 this year. They had a great E3 for a change. It was really good. It was great. So they've made progress. That's why I would give them I would say a high C plus, like a 77 or 78, somewhere around in there. They get a good C+ for their efforts and actually making some games that were good. Not great, but they were good. But I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. As always, for the listener feedback. And trust me, we are going to go over them this week. I might even do another episode tomorrow. You never know. So if you do want to be a part of listener feedback, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in, and the phone number is 443-380-0281, and let your voice be heard literally. Or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell. And again, I want to say thank y'all. We finally made it through another year. I feel very, very blessed to be able to, be making it into another year, because nothing is granted. You just never know. You can't take anything for granted. So I'm very grateful. And next year, we're going to be at it again, for the whole year for a change, because I started back in October. Most of the year was gone, but we will be getting it at the top of the year, with the Analog Circle podcast. So again, thank you guys for spreading the word and being here and always showing support. It is very, very appreciated. So with that being said, before we wrap it up and put that bow on it, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until possibly Wednesday, like I said, it might be Monday, it might be tomorrow, you never know. But possibly on Wednesday when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.